All right, we're about to dive into a story that, honestly, sounds like something out of a spy novel. It kicks off with a simple black plastic box in London and somehow ends with a ghost fleet of data tankers off the coast of Africa. It's this incredible web of high finance, elite universities, and a totally new kind of cyber warfare, one that's being fought right through your living room.
And this quote right here, it really frames the whole thing perfectly. We're moving way beyond some story about shady donations. We are now talking about what the experts call an infrastructure-level compromise. So we're shifting the conversation from bad press to actual hardware warfare.
This is the core question, right? The central mystery. It's a paradox that should be completely impossible. And yet the server logs, all the forensic evidence, it's undeniable. This little box somehow managed to break the laws of geography.
And look, the answer really matters, because this isn't just some abstract tech puzzle. The techniques that were pioneered here, they've been industrialized, they've been scaled up, and they are now being used to weaponize everyday consumer hardware, your router, your smart TV. It's turning our homes into the new battleground of a global digital conflict.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning with the anomaly. This was the very first concrete piece of evidence that showed something was deeply, deeply wrong. And it all started with one single compromised home router that became the digital smoking gun.
So here it is, the core impossibility. Imagine this. A user in South London notices his internet is acting weird. It's sluggish. So he does what any tech-savvy person would do. He runs a trace on his own IP address. Now that pin should have dropped right on his house. But instead it landed smack in the middle of the MIT Sloan School of Management in Cambridge, Massachusetts. His physical router was in the UK, but its digital soul was screaming that it was at one of the most prestigious universities in the United States.
Now, you would think that when this user presented this undeniable, rock-solid proof to his internet provider, British Telecom, they would have panicked, right? Or at least tried to fix it. Nope. They just froze. For 4 years, they literally called it a stalemate, and they refused to act on the data. They left this critical security hole wide open, and that 4-year gap, well, that's really the heart of the negligence here.
So how did the hackers even get in? Well, it wasn't a stolen password or anything like that. This slide lays out their 4-step playbook. The router's own software had a flaw called a path traversal. The best way to think of it is like a high-security building where someone left a bathroom window unlocked. The attackers just climbed right through, totally bypassing the login screen. Once they were inside, they flipped on an old insecure service called Telnet, which gave them root access. Basically, God mode. They owned the box. And from there, it was easy to enroll it into a global botnet, which is just this huge army of hijacked devices they can control from anywhere.
But why MIT? I mean, why go to all that trouble just to make a London router look like it belonged to a famous American university? Well, the answer takes us right back to a major scandal that, it turns out, created the perfect digital camouflage.
Yeah, this was no random choice. The MIT Media Lab, under people like Joy Ito, had actually developed something that's been called an anonymous donor protocol. Its whole purpose was to hide funding from Jeffrey Epstein. But it wasn't just about the money. Epstein also introduced the lab's leadership to professional hackers like Vincenzo Iozzo. He was the bridge between the world of academic prestige and the world of offensive cyber ops. And this created a perfect parallel, a tale of two laundering schemes. You see, just like MIT's high-trust reputation was used to wash the reputation of dirty money, its high-trust digital network was used to wash the reputation of malicious data. Think about it. If you're running a cyber operation, you want your traffic to look totally legitimate, right? Corporate firewalls don't block MIT, it just looks like academic research. The whole setup became the ultimate camouflage. And right here, this is the digital smoking gun. Forensic analysis found this absolutely stunning connection, something experts call latency-locked coincidences. In simple terms, whenever Epstein's private jets, like the one with tail number N908JE, would physically land in certain places, the hacked London router would record a perfectly corresponding spike in MIT-related traffic. The physical movement of the plane was triggering a perfectly timed digital echo. It was most likely synchronizing encrypted data through this high-trust network they'd built. Now, a technique this clever, this effective, it was never going to stay a small, one-off tool. The next chapter in this story is all about how this idea of data laundering got industrialized, scaled up, and turned into a massive, for-profit criminal enterprise. And the scale is it's staggering. Botnets like Isaru and its successor Kimwolf use these exact methods to compromise well over 2 million devices.
And you know what? Most of them aren't even computers. We're talking about cheap, uncertified Android TV boxes, the kind of thing you'd barely even think about, just sitting quietly in living rooms all over the world.
This map, which comes from the Torchlight research paper, really shows you the global nature of this threat. It highlights the geographic spread of devices being targeted by anonymous attackers hiding out on the Tor network. So this isn't some localized problem, it is a worldwide web of vulnerable hardware.
And here's exactly how the method evolved. So back at MIT, they used these internal-only donor IDs to basically create a ghost variable, which made the funding source invisible to any kind of audit. Well, the criminal enterprise known as IPEDIA uses the exact same logic. They just call it referential anonymity, and they use it to monetize millions of hijacked devices, turning them into a massive residential proxy network that they then sell to other criminals. The institutional cover-up became the business model.
But where does all of this stolen data actually go? Well, the story escalates again, moving from the digital world to a really shocking physical infrastructure, one that mirrors the tactics used by actual nation-states. I mean, when the pressure from law enforcement gets too high in Europe or the US, where can you physically store your command and control servers where they literally can't be touched? The answer is probably not what you're thinking. It goes to sea. Analysis uncovered a ghost fleet of tankers and super yachts docked in the low-transparency waters off the coast of Gabon. And these ships aren't carrying oil. Thermal scans show they're packed with high-density server racks. They're positioned right next to undersea fiber optic cables so they can act as these mobile, untouchable data centers, physically offloading data directly onto the African backbone infrastructure.
And these are not amateur tactics, not by a long shot. As this table shows, when you compare their methods to a known state-sponsored hacking group called Light Basin, they are technical mirror images. They use the same old-school GPRS mobile networks to wash their data. Think of the networks our flip phones used back in the day. They use the exact same tunneling tech to hide their command traffic, and they even operate in a similar synchronized ghost window to avoid detection. This is elite state-level tradecraft.
So, that brings us to today. You might be thinking, okay, the original vulnerability was patched in 2021, so we're all good now, right? Well, not exactly. The ghost that escaped from that first machine didn't just disappear, it evolved. And this is the truly chilling part. Those same MIT ghost signatures from that London router back in 2017, they are still being detected in modern cyber attacks. A ghost heartbeat has been found embedded deep inside NATO's energy grid. It's like a digital sleeper agent they can't easily remove without risking a crash. And the way they get it on your devices has evolved too. They now use what's called aesthetic coding, slick, professional-looking VPN or utility apps that trick you into willingly enrolling your own device as an exit node for their criminal network.
And that's really the final takeaway from all the source documents. Even when a security flaw is patched, the techniques and the infrastructure created, they live on. They can't just delete the ghost that's in NATO's grid. They can only contain it, wrapping it in what they call a silence veil to try and stop it from getting a wake-up signal. The threat is contained, for now, but it is not gone. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question. The same exploit chains are now being used to scrape hardware IDs to create perfect digital twins of our machines. So if your computer's very identity can be stolen and cloned, what's left to prove that you are still you? The future of security might not be about a longer password, but about proving you are biologically uniquely human.